All right. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you all to Central Park. So my name is Emily, and I am a new guide for the Central Park Conservancy. And this is my first weekly walk that I'm going to be talking to you all with my voice. I've been helping out on the back end for the past couple of weeks, but I'm very excited to actually be leading the walk with you all today. So for today, we are going to be together for around 15 minutes, and we're going to take a little stroll around the lake in Central Park. And as we go, we will check out some of those boat landings that we have on the edge of the lake. So most of the photos you're going to see today, they were taken by me within the last week. And then we also have some historical images that are from the Library of Congress and our own archives and places like that. So I will do my best to note the sources for you all as we go along. But before we get into the actual weekly walk, why don't we talk about some Zoom things quickly? So if we go to the next slide, you'll see a little guide here for how you can use some of the features on Zoom. Feel free to use the chat feature to say hello and to comment. You can also use the question and answer feature also on the control bar down there to ask questions. My colleagues, Ryan and Jose, they're on the back end and they can help you out throughout the program if you want to know anything more. And you will also be invited to participate in some polls today. So you'll see them pop up on your screen, and once enough people have participated, I will be sure to share the results with you all. And then one last thing really quick before we get into the actual walk portion, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page about who we are here at the Conservancy. So we are a nonprofit organization that's been working in the park since 1980. And basically what we do is that we care for Central Park, just from the smallest details like that day-to-day maintenance, but also those really big long-term projects like restoration of the park. And our mission at the Central Park Conservancy is to preserve and celebrate Central Park as a sanctuary from the pace and pressures of city life, enhancing the enjoyment and well-being of all. So that's what we're here to do. And with that, why don't we take a look at the route that we're going to be taking today? So it's a pretty simple route we're going to be going on. It's just going to be a loop around the lake. And we are going to start off at the West 77th Street entrance over here. So from the entrance, when I was out here, I'm looking at it, and honestly, the park, it looks a little bit drab from this angle, right? There's not really a lot going on. It looks like we're still in winter, but as soon as I started walking into the park, you notice those first lights of spring coming in and greeting us. So right now, this yellow bush here, that is some brilliant yellow forsythia. And I hope that throughout the walk today, you guys all enjoy seeing the signs of spring that are beginning to pop up in the park. This is a really exciting time of year in Central Park. We have lots of different things coming up and changing really, really fast. And so I continue to walk into the park with you all. We're going to walk southeast, and as we go, we're starting to get our first glimpses of the lake. Can you see it here through these bushes? And we'll also head over really quick to Balcony Bridge just over on the left to get a closer look at the lake. So this is Central Park's lake. And before we get into the rest of the walk, I want to talk a little bit about the lake and its history first, because that's really going to help us understand the other things that we see. So it's also very fitting that when we talk about Central Park, that we talk about the lake first here, because the lake was the very first part of Central Park to be opened. The park, it did not open all at once. Areas opened gradually as they were completed. So the lake was the first part to open in the winter of 1858, and it was instantly super popular. Lots of people made their way out to the park to go ice skating, a very popular pastime at this point in history. And this early photograph from the Library of Congress, it shows people ice skating on the lake around 1865, so really early in the park's days. And just as skating was a really popular pastime, boating also became really popular a little bit after ice skating. Boating started coming up into the park around the early 1860s. So in this photo, we are looking at some boaters circa 1865 and another photo from the Library of Congress. And to support this really new popular park pastime, the park builders, they installed boat landings around the lake's edge. They put in 6 boat landings, and there even used to be a passenger boat it would go in a little circuit around the lake, and it would use those boat landings as stops, so people could get on and off, kind of like a little ferry ride. And I've got a photo for us here of one of those original boat landings. You have to look closely because this photo, it is pretty old. It's from, once again, circa 1865. But you can see here that the landing, it is made out of wood. And especially when we have wood outside, it doesn't last forever. It breaks down over time. It's an organic material. So these landings, they had to be repaired over the years. And lots of these little charming details of the boat landings, they got lost over time. They became more architecturally simple the more people worked on it. But by 1970, repairs had completely stopped and there were no boat landings left. So in the 1970s, the Parks Department and some volunteers for the department, they rebuilt 4 of the original 6 landings. However, those are not the landings that we have in the park today. The ones that we have now, if you go Central Park today and you look at the landings, they are from 2016, so they're really new. The Conservancy, they rebuilt 5 of those landings, being very faithful to the original designs. So with that, I think it's time in our walk to go look at our first real boat landing on our walk today. So this is the Herm's Head boat landing that we're looking at. And let's take a closer look. You know, when I said the name of the boat landing, Herm's Head, you might have been wondering what that word means, because like a lot of things in Central Park, this landing, it has a name that we don't really use that word. It's kind of antiquated, old-fashioned. So the name for this landing, it is also shared with a rock that's really nearby. It's a rock outcrop. It's also called Herm's Head. And that is the crop there. And this rock is the reason why it's called Herm's Head. So Hern, that is an old-fashioned British version of the word heron, as in the bird. And the park designers, Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux, they named this rock Herm's Head because its shape reminded them of a heron's head. And here is a picture of a heron, in case you haven't seen one recently. And that is gonna bring us to our first poll of the day. What I really want to know, guys, because this has been really on my mind as I've been making this walk, is I wanna know if you think that this rock here actually looks like a heron's head. So vote, send your answers in down below, and then we'll look at the answers later. And while we're waiting for people to vote, I'm going to continue on our walk. So we are now walking south to our next boat landing. And on our walk, I know something interesting going on in the ground over here. The grass looks a little bit strange, and that's because some of our turf care staff at the Conservancy, they have just finished some work here. So there are 2 different things going on in this photo. Why don't we take a closer look? So from this angle, you can see that the ground, it's filled with all of these little holes. And those holes, they have a really important purpose. So just like trees, grass also has roots. And nice grass that has healthy roots that reach far down into the soil. But if soil gets really compacted, just like it might if you have a lot of people walking on it, which is probably what happened here since it's right next to a walkway, that compacted soil is really smushed together. So it's hard for the roots to push down and take all the good stuff that it needs out of the dirt in order for it to grow. So something, if you're caring for dirt like this, that you can do to help out this problem is to aerate the soil, which is basically just punching little holes in the dirt. So not only does this loosen the soil, letting the roots grow in easier, but these holes, they also act like little shortcuts for water, oxygen, and nutrients to reach these roots. It's like a highway. They can go straight down to where they need to be used. And then another interesting thing is happening here. If we look even closer, you can also see that there are tiny little seeds all over the top of the lawn. So this lawn was just overseeded. And all that means is that new seed, it was laid on top of the existing grass. And I know it doesn't look like there's a lot of grass going on in this photo, but that is exactly why they put down more seeds. You know, you need to put down more seeds so the grass can grow. And of course, we at Central Park, we're known for our beautiful, lush, green lawns and beautiful grass. So aerating and overseeding, they're just some of the work that goes into keeping these landscapes so beautiful. And before we move on to our next boat landing, why don't we end this poll And I will share the results with you all now. Okay, so it looks like most of you guys agree with me in that you don't see the heron's head here. I agree with you. I was trying to look at the rock from all angles when I was out in the park to see where it might look like a heron's head. But I also see that a couple of you have said yes, and other number of you have also said that you're going to tell us how to actually view the heron's head. So please do in the chat. I would really love to know in the future. Okay, so let's continue walking. Okay, so I was continuing to move south, and to mix things up, I thought that we can just turn down this little path over here. You know, as we were walking, I'm not really sure where it's going to lead, but eventually we pop out at the next boat landing. You know, little paths like this, they help give a park visitor like a really fun sense of discovery, right? You feel like you're exploring this beautiful, mysterious woodland. You don't know what's around the next corner. And this sense of discovery and adventure in Central Park is a really celebrated part of the park's design. And eventually we are popping out here at the little boat landing, and you'll notice that the path we took, it's not even reflected on the map. So it's kind of like a secret just for anybody who wants to come by and find this like on their adventure. So this landing, just underneath some tree branches that are just starting to bloom right up here. And while almost blooms, they're not the best view for our weekly walk. It's not the most beautiful photo to share with you all, but it's also really great news for any viewers that might live in New York City, because, you know, if they're almost blooming now, that gives you time within the next week or so to go head out into the park and to see these blooms for yourself. So let's keep walking. We are continuing south along the edge of the lake, and we're just turning around the southernmost corner of the water over here. And this upcoming boat landing, you'll see it's also tucked away onto a little side path. So the path is going to turn off of the west side of Cherry Hill over here. And before we jump into what this area of the park looks like today, the Wagner Cove boat landing, I want to show you a historical photo of what it looked like before our restoration. So this photo is from 2014, not that long ago. And I pulled it from our archives at the Central Park Conservancy to share with you all. This area, it's always been really popular. It's secluded, a really private spot in the park. And it was actually the first of the boat landings to ever be restored in the 1970s, probably because it is so popular, right? And in looking at this photo from 2014, we can see it looks like a pretty nice place to sit. But if you know what it looks like now, you'll see that it's probably missing some of the charm of the original historic design. So that's better reflected in this photo now that I took in the park just this past week. This is, of course, after the 2016 restoration, and it was recreated according to the original design that was in a rustic style, right? It has all of that raw wood that hasn't been processed, so you can see all of the curves in the natural wood here. And it also blends in with the other wood that's in these woodlands. And there's even this really charming stone path that leads up to the landing, making this a really romantic little corner of the park. And for that reason, there are lots of weddings and proposals here. And for that reason, you might have just got a little sneak peek because I accidentally clicked, but you often see flower petals on the ground over here. This is a close-up of what the ground in Wagner Cove looks like. And if you look really closely, you'll be able to notice that these are fake petals. They are made out of polyester usually, and polyester is plastic. So these petals, they're not going to decompose over time. And, you know, there's really no way for us to know how long these have already been here because they're really durable because they're plastic. So this is a great reminder to always properly dispose of any trash that you might make while you are enjoying Central Park. So let's leave the landing here. We are once again heading east, and we are passing by the other end of Cherry Hill. And at this time of year, you can really see where it gets its name from. The cherry blossoms on these trees here, they're just starting to bloom. And back to our map, you'll see that I added a little bonus stop at Bethesda Terrace. So let's head over here and check out a hidden part of some park history. So earlier, I mentioned that there used to be a passenger boat that carried visitors around the mini stops that we have around the lake. And one of the stops was actually Bethesda Terrace. And you can see that in this drawing of the terrace from 1869. This one comes to us from Wikimedia Commons. And this close-up here, it shows us how these boatmen, they would come up to the side of the terrace, and then with a pole, they would clip onto a little hook that was on one of the pillars, and they would use that to pull themselves in closer to the terrace. And I have a little close-up image of the remnants from the park that still exist in the park today. So if you peek behind the pillar, you can see these little bronze covers over those hooks where the boatmen used to dock. And my apologies for the quality of these images. This is a screenshot from an internal document, but that's all the more reason for you to go out into the park and see this detail for yourself next time you get the opportunity, right? And if I could also share with you all another little bonus photo on our little bonus stop, because when I was in Bethesda Terrace, I saw something that was really exciting to me personally. So some conservancy staff were working on the fountain in the middle of the terrace. So this fountain, it doesn't run in the winter months, but the water gets turned on again for the spring. So seeing these workers here cleaning out the fountain, it looks like it kind of gave me hope that they might be turning on the fountain soon. And I haven't been to this area since, so maybe they already have. So let me know in the chat if you've seen this, the fountain's on, but regardless, it's still really exciting to see these signs of the park reopening for spring and for summer. And I was also personally really excited to get this action shot of them pouring the dirty water out of the fountain. That really felt like some live on the ground reporting for the weekly walk. So after all of that excitement, why don't we cross Bow Bridge to get to our next boat landing? Here it is on the map. You can see it's also right next to Bow Bridge, which is probably why it's named Bow Bridge Boat Landing. Here it is. In this photo, you can also see that the sun is really starting to come out. It's turning into a beautiful spring day. And from this view on this landing, we have a great view of the actual boaters. Can you see them? There's one group here. There's another group here. So you can still rent a rowboat from the Low Boathouse and then go test out these boat landings for yourself, maybe get on and off. So these rentals, they run from April to November. And I actually took these photos on April 1st. So these are some of the first people enjoying the lake for the whole season. And then the last boat landing we have today is in the Ramble. And I will confess that I definitely got a little turned around and lost trying to find my way in the Ramble. There's a lot of different paths. They go off in all these different directions. So if you want to go on this walk in the future and you don't know the park super well, I recommend taking a screenshot so you can make sure that you take a really efficient route and you don't get lost like I did. But once we finally make our way through the woods, this is what we are going to see. This is the Bank Rock boat landing. And this is my personal favorite because it is built right into the rock outcrop over here on the left. And I think that is really cool. And now that we've seen all of the boat landings, I'm going to open another poll for you all. Why don't we see what everybody's favorite boat landing of the day is. So I'm launching that now. I'll give you a couple moments to vote on that while we talk a little bit about this boat landing specifically. So when I was planning this route, I wanted to hit this boat landing last because it was the last one to be rebuilt. So when a lot of the boat landings were being rebuilt in the 1970s, this one was not. So it's only been in this area since 2016 and was recreated based off of historical photographs like this one, right? And as you can see from looking at this photograph, 1865 Library of Congress, it is pretty faithful. It looks almost the exact same as it's in the park today. And we have had, the answers are still pouring in on this poll, but it's starting to slow down. So I will cut it off here and then I'm going to share the results. Okay, so it looks like this is not really what I expected. So Herm's Head and Western Shore, they are not that popular, but Wagner Cove, Bow Bridge, and Bank Rock are the most popular ones that we have, with Bow Bridge winning. This really surprises me to see Wagner Cove isn't more popular, because I feel like that is the one that people know about the least, since it's so tucked away. It's really special when you find it, but hey, maybe this is why not as many people voted for it, because they don't know that it's there. Okay, so I've turned off the poll and we are ready for the very last photo on our walk today. To bring our walk to a close, we can walk just to the west out onto Oak Bridge. And from here, you have a great view of the lake, boaters, these beautiful rock outcrops. There's the Herm's Head outcrop again from a different angle. And of course, these beautiful spring blooms. You have the cherries over here, and then you have the lovely skyline. So I thought this beautiful view really brought everything that we saw together. And before you all go, of course, I want to let you know about some of our upcoming programs. So now it is officially April, which means that it is the birth month of one of Central Park's designers. His name is Frederick Law Olmsted. And this year is extra special because it would have been his 200th birthday. So to celebrate this occasion, lots of Olmsted designed parks. They're running special events this year, and the group is called Olmsted 200. So us at Central Park, we have written 2 brand new, totally unique tours about Olmsted and his work just for this occasion. And I'd really recommend checking out these tours if you're interested in Central Park history. So first, I'll tell you about, we have our Parks in Conversation tour, which is actually a collaboration between us and Prospect Park in Brooklyn, which is another Olmsted designed park. So you can join us for the virtual tour or an in-person tour of both Central Park and or Prospect Park. So there are 2 different tours, one in Central Park, one in Prospect Park. You can come to one, you can come to both, but if you do come to both, you will get a discount code for $10 off the companion tour. And my coworkers will be dropping a link in the chat for all of these programs if you're interested in booking. And then we will also have a new Olmsted themed tree walk coming out. Tree walks are some of our most popular offerings. So this should be a lot of fun as well. And this is going to be offered in person. And the link for this should also be in the chat too. All right, so as we come to a close, I want to thank you guys for visiting Central Park with me today. Remember, there's lots of ways that you can stay connected with the Conservancy. For example, you can visit us on our social channels, and our handle is @CentralParkNYC. I'm going to leave the room open for a couple of minutes so we can grab any last questions about the walk that you might have today. But with that, have a great rest of your day from us here at the Central Park Conservancy, and we hope to see you for the next weekly walk on Wednesday.